Beethoven went progressively deafer, he was able to give fuller rein to his adventurous and kind of pioneering spirit, which was one of pushing people to the extremes rather than going back to the very, very sort of contained classical education with which he'd started composing.
The complete opposite, if you like, to music of the Revolution, which is meant to be performed by ordinary people in ordinary circumstances. Beethoven, as it were, stands at the opposite end of that particular spectrum.
I mean, maybe he needed this sort of kick-start in order to create the symphonies that we know and cherish.
Beethoven wouldn't have written the same music had it not been for the French Revolution, any more than Blake would have written the same poetry.
What I find fascinating about the last two movements of the Fifth Symphony is that they're based on, or at least their origin, the seed, is a French seed from two separate composers. If you listen to the scherzo, the pizzicato in the strings and with a bassoon, it seems to have a direct derivation in Mayhew's G minor symphony, where he wrote for pizzicato strings, roughly contemporary with the Fifth Symphony, perhaps a little bit before. Now, Mayhew wrote a scherzo for pizzicato strings. Now, that's very unusual. Nobody had done that before. Beethoven is doing exactly the same thing, more or less at the same time. Had he heard Mayhew's symphony? Had he seen it? We don't know, but there it is. Now, when it comes to the explosion of the entrance of the full brass and that enormous dynamic range that you suddenly hear at the beginning of the last movement, coming out of this very, very quiet murmuring sound, you're right into the world of victory celebrations and the French cries of victoire and la liberté and all those things. And woven into that texture, one can hear the words la liberté, which imbues the whole second half of that movement with so much feeling of excitement and of awe.
La liberté, la liberté.
wrote the Marseillaise overnight, didn't he, in 1792?
He's the most famous.
And he wrote this thing, the Chantons la Liberté, this hymn that Beethoven seems to have picked up on in the last movement of the Fifth Symphony.
And these contain these little melodic germs that everybody immediately associates with liberty and revolution. La liberté, la liberté. So Rouge et Lille, he comes in, he writes a fairly simple single line kind of music that is for mass performance.
Yeah.
Ordinary people can learn it quickly, and were taught it quickly.